Have you ever had the experience where you started something, felt really excited, really inspired by it, and you launched into it, and then it didn't work out as planned? Huh? Has that happened to you? That's happened to me. And after that, you felt discouraged. You felt like, well, maybe this just wasn't for me, or maybe you did something wrong. Today, I'm going to present some information to you to help massively improve your chances of success with whatever you pursue. The title of the conversation today is called From One to Many. And we're going to be looking at the law of multiplication as it applies to nature, but also as it applies to our human experiences. And so before we get into that, I want to share a little bit about who I am and why I'm doing this. So hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Adam Meadows. I'm a practicing psychiatrist here in Atlanta, Georgia. Been practicing for over 12 years now, and I've had the beautiful privilege of getting to work with many patients over that time, listening, counseling, feeling with them, advising, being invited into the most vulnerable seasons of their life. And I realized that a lot of what I do here in the office can apply to those of you out there who may not need to see me for mental health reasons, but are working through your own hardships, working through your own challenges. You feel like you've got something to share, something good that you want to offer the world, but you just don't know how to do it. Or you've tried and you've failed. And so today, we're going to walk through a system of how to do that more successfully. And I promise you, if you follow this system, it will work. Okay? This is something that I've done myself, that I've seen a lot of my successful colleagues do, a lot of people that I've worked with as patients follow the same formula, so to speak, and have a lot better chances of success. And so the conversation today, I'm going to split it up into two parts. So this is part one. We're going to be talking about, again, the law of multiplication and some of the principles. And we're going to be using the metaphor of planting a garden and how that can translate to a lot of what we pursue in terms of business or relationships or ideas that we have, kind of using the construct of a garden. So that's part one. And then in part two, we're going to get into a little bit more kind of practical examples, giving a breakdown of our physical senses and how those play in. We're also going to talk about spiritual senses and how those play a role as well. So hope you have pen and paper ready. We're going to dive right in and hope this is helpful for you. And if it is helpful, please share this with a friend. Leave a comment below, like the video, share it, ask me a question. I want this to be as engaging as possible. Okay? So we're talking about from one to many, using the law of multiplication. There are several universal laws that kind of govern the physical world. And I'm not talking about man-made laws like speed limits and, if you steal something from the store, you get arrested. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about natural laws that are observed in the physical world. For instance, the law of gravity. The law of gravity, as you know, is what keeps us standing flat on this earth. Other laws like the law of polarity. And that might not be as familiar for some of you, but the law of polarity says there's two sides to everything. For everything that's hot, there's something cold. For up, there's down. For good, there's bad, right? And the thing about laws is that they're always on. It doesn't matter how you feel, it doesn't matter what your circumstances. The law of gravity, it's always working, right? And when we understand those laws, we can use our human intelligence to overcome that. Think about air travel and making an airplane, being able to overcome gravity, but that doesn't mean that gravity's not working. The principle of gravity, the law of gravity is still in effect, even though we've been able to use our creativity and our innovation to overcome it. So what we're talking about today is the law of multiplication. And particularly when we look at nature, when we look at the process of planting a seed and how one seed can grow into a tree and create multiple fruit, that process is what we're going to be doing a deep dive in today and translating that understanding to things that we pursue in our real life. And so looking at the law of multiplication, that simply says it's basically a growth accelerator, right? When we think about it mathematically, if we did 4 plus 3, if we did this from an addition standpoint, that equals 7. However, if we multiply 4 times 3, that equals 12, right? And all we did is change the process of what happened between these numbers. When we added it, we get one result. When we multiply, we get a different result that is bigger. And so we can see that when we multiply things, it is a growth accelerator, and it increases kind of exponentially what the outcome is. Okay? So we're going to break that down in our analogy of planting a garden. So put on your gardener hats, go get your shovels and your gloves, and get ready to play in the dirt, because we're going to walk through that kind of step by step. Okay? So, before we get into the garden per se, I want to talk about the process of starting something and laying the right foundation. Step one, for everything you do, again, I don't care if it's choosing a school, getting into a relationship, starting a business, making financial decisions, it doesn't matter what it is. Step one is make a decision. Okay? Not choose something, make a decision. And I love how Myron Golden explains this. A decision is different than a choice. Okay? A decision the word decide comes from the Latin word that means to cut off. When you make a decision, when you decide on something, you cut yourself off from other options, from other possibilities. Too many of us, I'm not saying this with any judgment, myself included, I've walked this before. Too many of us are getting into stuff without making a decision. We come up with a plan B. Well, maybe if this doesn't work out, let me have a fallback plan. Listen, the Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Where our focus goes, our energy flows. So if we are focusing on 10 different things, we're splitting our energy into those 10 things, and we're unlikely to follow through. We're unlikely to be successful with any one of them. And so my encouragement to you today is to make a decision, make a single decision, and focus on that, and do that as step one before you get into whatever you're getting into. Okay? So coming back to our garden analogy, first step, make a decision that we're going to get into gardening. Okay? So we've set an intention. We're making the decision. You know what? We're going to plant a garden. Second step is find the land. Okay? Again, I chuckle to myself because I can see earlier versions of myself having not done this and having pursued stuff. I've tried some real estate investing at one point. My wife and I got into some network marketing thing with healthcare. Again, with good intentions, right? And that's another part of where my heart is into this. There are so many of you out there with good intentions, with good gifts to share, but we do it in a haphazard way, or we do a lot of starting and stopping, and we're not intentional, we're not specific. So I want to walk through a system and a structure of how to be specific and improve the outcome of our success, okay? So we've made a decision, now we're going to go find the land, okay? If we were literally planting a garden, we may need to drive around, look at some vacant lands, look at some properties, see if there's anything available for where we can plant. Because you can't plant a garden everywhere. You've got to choose a spot, right? You have to choose an industry. You have to choose a person to get into a relationship. You have to choose a career path initially, right? To pursue something. So find the lands. Okay, so let's say we found the land. Step 3, we're going to test the soil. Okay? Testing the soil. As you may know, there's different types of ground, different types of soil out there. If we were having this conversation in the middle of the Sahara Desert, we'd see a lot of sand. And that may not be the most, quote, fertile soil to plant our garden. If we were, off the coast of California in the Pacific, where the rocky cliffs, and trying to plant there amongst the rocks, also not the most fertile soil, right? So you got to go and put your hands in the dirt. You got to test the soil. Applying this to a business decision. Let's say you're going to go interview for a job. What's the company's track record? Who are some of the current or former employees? Can you talk to them? Can you get their assessment of how the job has been? What are the reviews online about the job or a product or service that the company produces? Right? So test the soil. You got You have to know what you're getting into to determine whether or not it's fertile ground for you to then plant your seed. Okay? That's step 3. Step 4 is prepare the land. And this order is important, y'all. Like, this order is very specific for a reason. 1, make a decision. 2, find the land. 3, test the soil. 4, prepare the land. Okay? If we're starting a garden, let's say we go there, and there's a bunch of overgrown shrubbery, there's a bunch of weeds already there, there's a bunch of, kind of dead wood. We got to clear that land. As this applies to us and the things that we pursue in our lives, there are some habits that we are doing, there are some behaviors that we are doing that will not serve us as we are pursuing what's next for us. Okay? So there are some things you're going to have to give up, some things you're going to have to stop doing, some people that you may need to not associate with anymore. And again, I say this lovingly. There's not any judgment with this. But what got you to where you are now may or may not serve you in where you're going. And so you have to decide, okay, what are the habits that I'm doing? Who are the people I'm associating with? How am I spending my time, my money, etc.? And is that going to get me to where I need to go? And if not, it's time to clear the land for what's coming next. Okay? And then the last step, which we're more familiar with, is plant the seed. Okay? This is the formula. This is the order in which to do it. Guilty, right? Can I raise my hand? Guilty as charged. We've been in the place where we've jumped from having an idea, not making a decision, just having an idea, to planting the seed. I'm going to start a website. I'm going to start an e-commerce company. I'm going to jump into network marketing. I'm going to go and take this class. Again, good intentions, right? Well intended, but the outcome of being successful, being able to sustain that, will improve if you do it in this order. Okay? Nature shows us all the time that there's an order to things. You have to plant something before you can harvest it. Too many of us, again, self-included, we like the results. We like the fruit, we like the money, we like the rewards, we like the recognition, but we neglect the planting time. Okay? So plant the seed after we've prepared the land. Another important thing about planting the seed is when you dig a hole, you put the seed in there, and then you cover the ground. Part of planting the seed is that you have to put it in the ground and let it go. You can't keep your hand on it while it's underground. You have to trust that whatever's happening underground is meant to be. And I get it. That can feel scary, right? It can feel like a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt. But trust that when you've put the seed into the right ecosystem, after you've done these steps, the rest will take care of itself. Okay? And what is a seed? A seed can be money. It can be an idea. It can be your time and your effort, right? It can be a number of things, but you got to bring something to the table, right? Nature works in what we would call a reciprocal relationship, right? Each part of the process helps the other. It's not just a selfish, looking to take. You can't just show up to a garden and just want to pluck the corn. That corn is only going to be there if you planted some corn seeds months in advance, okay? The same thing here. You have to plant the seed, you have to bring something to the process and let it go, okay? So I hope this is clear. I hope y'all are taking notes. Ask me questions in the comments as things are kind of percolating. And again, some of this information may be familiar, but I promise you've never heard it explained in this way that I'm going to kind of walk out over the portion of this video and the next video, okay? So now, we are going to get into, again, we're still in our garden. We're going to talk about the soil stage, okay? This is the ground. Here's our seed. And what are these, right? These are roots that are now happening, right? The soil, for all of us, that's that is the time of preparation. And I get it, y'all, it can feel scary. When you're in the soil, it's dark, right? It's a little slimy, it's damp, it's cold. You might feel lonely, but trust me, this stage has to happen. This stage of preparation has to happen. And the spirit by which you plant your seed, the energy, the emotion, the way of thinking that you plant in affects what happens underneath the soil, okay? So if you plant in fear, if you plant in, I don't know if it's gonna work out. Well, I don't tried this before, but might as well. Don't do that, right? Don't. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You are giving your seed, your poor little seed, you're already giving it your doubt energy, you're putting your negativity on it and putting it underground. Don't do that. Plant it in the spirit of hope, of belief, of assignment, saying, you know what? I've got something to offer. I believe that this seed is going to produce what God wants it to produce. I believe that this is going to serve people at a high level. Plant it with that energy. And I promise you're going to see a different tree produced if you do it like that. I'll tell y'all a quick story. So this is back in 2020. January 2020, my wife and I found out that we were pregnant. I like to say that we were pregnant. Let's be honest here. She was pregnant, right? And I was there as a supportive husband. And so January 2020, okay? What happened a couple months later, March of 2020? COVID, right? Mass hysteria, global fear, global anxiety. But I just need to brag on my wife a little bit. She is the strongest person I know. She made a decision saying, you know what? I can't let this baby feel this fear. I can't go through COVID, go through this pregnancy, worrying and fretting and wondering and doubting and fear. She said, I need to be strong. We have to be strong for our child. And she did just that. And I can proudly say our son is 4 and he is fearless. He is brave and strong and compassionate and all those things. But she made a decision not to plant fear, during her pregnancy. And I can tell you, this soil stage, right? We're going to call this the soil stage, is like pregnancy, okay? It's a season of preparation. And no matter what, hear this, write it down, hear this. No matter what you are doing, there is always, always, always a time period between planting and harvesting. For humans in pregnancy, we call that the gestation period. It takes 9 months, okay? And we accept that as, it takes some months. But apply that to apply that to your business. Apply that to your relationship, right? It's gonna take some time from when you get started to when it's fully thriving and ready to come out. Same thing with this seed let's say we're in a garden and this seed is an apple seed that's gonna produce an apple tree. No good gardener is gonna plant this seed on Tuesday and then come out the next day, Wednesday, and be, is the apple tree there yet? Can I pluck some apples? It's like, you're not gonna do that, right? It sounds, silly. I'm being humorous about it, but now, let's be honest, a lot of us do this, okay? We start a business, a week later, we wanna see some profits. We start an Instagram page, a few weeks later, how come we don't have 2 million followers? See, this thing don't even work. Let's be patient, please. Trust that the gestation period is doing what it needs to do. 9 months now, another story. I've had the idea for this conversation, for this presentation, for probably 8 months at least. I wrote an outline for this talk in December of 2023. This is July 2024, okay? What was I doing between December of last year and July? I was working, I was studying, I was watching YouTube videos, I was thinking about this conversation, reading about these topics. I was getting coached, right? I worked with a great coach. His name was Frederick Bussey, great guy. I call him Professor X, right? From the X-Men. This guy the way he thinks, he can see things the way Professor X did, right? So I was getting trained up. I was doing the soil work, right? The root work in order to be the person I needed to be to then give this presentation thoughtfully now, okay? And so just hone in on that it's gonna take some time. And you will be better for the time it takes, okay? That's part of the process. So, soil stage. one of the fallacies that we think about the soil stage is that it's lonely and that we don't have help. Wrong. You have help in the soil. Did y'all know that there are bacteria, and let's talk about earthworms. There are worms. Do you know the earthworm, as it burrows down in the soil, it churns it over, it releases certain nutrients that the seed and that the roots can take up to then fertilize the seed and nurture it to help it grow. There are bacteria that convert nitrogen in the soil, right? I'm getting sciencey on y'all. I was a biology major, so I'm bringing it down. Bacteria that convert nitrogen in the soil, again, that the roots can take to then provide the right nutrients for the plant to allow it to grow. So you have help in the soil. What can help look like? Getting coaching, researching, studying, joining a mastermind, joining a small group, doing some fundraising, right? Some fundraising might need to happen during the soil stage. Having conversations with private investors or different people, okay? Do the root work. I'm telling you, in order to have the product that you need, the soil stage is critical, okay? So, next, we're gonna talk about this stage, okay? We're gonna call this a seedling. Seedling. Okay, so now I want you to look at this. I drew it like this for a reason, not just for a reason. This is how it actually happens within nature. But look, this part of the plant here that extends up from the seed, this is called the shoot. Okay, this will eventually become the tree. How many shoots do y'all see? One. We see one shoot and multiple, multiple roots, okay? Y'all, please write this down. Your roots have to be deeper and more plentiful than the shoot, okay? Your anchoring, your foundation is the most critical part of whatever you're pursuing, okay? If you want a happy, successful marriage, do the root work, okay? Get to know each other. What's y'all's credit scores? How much debt does someone have? What kind of parenting background do they come from? You know, what are your values? Okay? Right? Do the root work. And get the foundation in place before y'all just jump into something. Okay? If you're starting a business, what are the financials? Okay? Who's your competition in the industry? Right? Do your root work. Because it takes multiple roots to support one shoot. Too many of us, myself included, I've been there, and I say this all in love, too many of us, we want the result, we want the shoot, we want the visibility, we want the recognition, we want the rewards. You will wither away. The first storm that comes, if your roots are not secure, it's a wrap, okay? You will wither away. And so get your roots in order so that during the seedling stage, you're gonna be secure. So what is the seedling stage? So I like our pregnancy analogy. Let's kind of roll with that. So soil stage, pregnancy. Seedling stage, giving birth through maybe infancy, early toddler stages, right? And the thing about, when we think about nature is, this is a vulnerable stage. This is the first time that this plant has broken ground. It's the first time that it's been exposed to the sunlight, to rain, to wind, to frost. It's maybe the first time it's been exposed to any kind of predators, okay? So, because if we're in a garden, what else is growing here? Some weeds? What else is coming through here? You know? Predators, pests, foxes, squirrels, trying to pull something up prematurely. So every good gardener will protect his or her seedling at this stage. What does that mean? That means you might need to put a fence around this, okay? You might need to use some, nature-friendly pesticides, or I'm making that up, but you need to protect it. You might need to get out there and start pulling up some weeds. The sooner you find that weed, to pluck it out. If you let it grow, if you are exposing yourself at this stage to negativity, to other people's opinions, to doubts, to scrutiny, that weed's gonna choke that. The seedling stage, it's not strong enough, it's not ready for prime time. It's not strong enough to stand on its own. So you have to be intentional about protecting the seedling during this stage, okay? I hope this is making sense to you. I can feel the wheels turning. I know you guys are hearing something now. So seedling stage, what comes next, okay? So now, I'm gonna erase this. Again, still got our roots intact, all of our roots. And let's say, starting to form a tree now, okay? Again, this will eventually be an apple tree, but we're gonna call this stage the sapling stage. Huh? Y'all didn't know I knew that word, did you? Sapling, I gotta admit, I just researched that the other day. I'm not a botanist, but sapling is kind of like an immature tree or like a young tree, okay? Using our stages of development, let's talk that through. This would be like adolescent stage, okay? Cool things about saplings is that they have some bark, okay? Like the tree branches, like the bark on the tree. In the sapling stage, that bark is not quite thick yet. It's pretty smooth. It's pretty flexible, which has its advantages, right? In the sapling stage, when a gust of wind comes, that sapling can bend, but it won't break. Another thing, it's, the root system is in place. Sapling is not yet producing any fruit yet, okay? So there's no flowers forming, there's no fruit yet, but it does have some branches. It's got some experience now, okay? Think of your teenager. For all your parents out there, your teenagers, they might have a little confidence now, starting to feel themselves. They're trying to find their identity amongst their peers. And it's a stage of creativity, of taking some risk, of having some excitement. There's a lot of growth that happens during this stage, right? So it can be an exciting stage. However, we still need caution, okay? It's not yet ready for prime time either. We still need to protect it, okay? There's a reason why there's age requirements for driver's licenses, for owning firearms, whatever, because just because it's visible, has some experience, doesn't mean it's ready to withstand all that comes with life, okay? So at this stage of your business, this stage of your relationship, might have made a little money. Might have, weathered a couple of arguments during the relationship. You might have done some exciting things, taken a trip together. Right? Lots of good stuff can happen at this stage. But stay anchored. Don't get overconfident, okay? Still remember what you did in the soil stage, huh? You were studying, you were getting coaching, you were part of a community, you were preparing. Keep that up. Even though you're a tree now, even though you're technically a tree, don't forget your root work, okay? Keep that up. That is critical, okay? Hope this is making sense to y'all. So, we're about to get into the exciting stage, the mature tree, and what that means. So, okay. I know y'all are super impressed with my artwork. This is my backup plan. If this psychiatry thing doesn't work out, I'm going straight into art. So now we have our mature tree, and we've got some apples here, okay? We're gonna call this mature tree. Okay, so I'm gonna take my time on this section to walk you guys through it kind of methodically. So backing up, remember, we are gardeners. We are good farmers, we're good gardeners. We started off making a decision. We found some land. We tested the soil. We prepared the land. We planted our seed, okay? In the soil stage, we had help from the earthworms, from the bacteria, from the rainwater that would penetrate the soil and still hydrates the roots. We had help from the sunlight that would penetrate down. Then in our seedling stage, we broke ground for the first time. It was a whole new world. We came up like Ariel the Little Mermaid, coming up out of water for the first time, right? And there was a lot of excitement, but also a lot of kind of fear with that. There was a lot of new things we had to confront. But our gardener, thankfully, protected us. He put a hedge around us, put up some fencing, kept the predators away, kept the foxes out. He would go out each day. We would go out each day. We would pluck the weeds to protect our seedling. Okay? We saw it grow into a sapling, a young plant. Had a little confidence. Started to understand itself. It started to, have a little progress. And now here we are. We are a mature tree. We are producing fruit. Okay? So this is the phase of productivity. Okay? Productivity. Our relationship is thriving. We've had some years of successful marriage. We're in the business. We've had several years of profitable runs. Our business is growing. We are cruising on all cylinders. Okay, this is exciting. It's like finally, we made it, right? But it was a process. Okay, it took some time to go from the soil stage to the mature tree. And what is it about? So I want to color this. So let's say, I know I said apple tree, but I'm going to color it orange. Let's say this is an orange tree. If y'all have ever been out in nature, just any garden, botanical gardens, any farmland, if you look at the colors that nature uses, they're bright. They are attractive. It's greens and yellows and reds and shades of reds and purples, right? You don't see, I can't think of a time where I walked around a garden and saw some gray fruit. Or a black apple grown from a tree. Okay? What you produce, the fruit should be attractive to the consumer. Because this is what keeps the cycle going. The seed is contained within the fruit. So we need someone or something to eat the fruit, let it go through their digestive system, excrete it back in nature so that it replants and we get the next generation of trees growing. Okay? And let's, again, law of multiplication. How many seeds did we start with? 1. Produced 1 tree with multiple fruit. Okay, this is God's math. It's a beautiful thing. And we have access to the same math, I promise you. It's multiplication. 1 seed, many fruit. There's a famous quote that says, I might get some of it wrong, but it says essentially, any fool can count the number of seeds within an apple, but only God knows the number of apples within a seed. Right? 1 seed creates a tree with multiple fruit. And that fruit, hear this, that fruit is not for you. That fruit comes from you, but for others. Right? An apple tree doesn't eat its own apples. An apple tree produces apples so that other animals and birds and whatever else eat it, expose the seeds, and it keeps the apple tree's generation going. Okay? So, again, I love y'all. I'm going to say this lovingly. But if no one's buying your product or your service, go back to the soil stage. You might need to regroup. Right? If no one's purchasing, if no one's consuming it, is it attractive? Is it what they want? Okay? And I'm not just saying, cater to what people want, but what you produce, what you're offering to the world should be attractive, okay? You have a talent, you have a skill, you have a gift, you have a seed to share. You are a seed. And when you plant yourself in the right soil and do the root work, you get anchored, you protect yourself in the early stages of whatever you're pursuing, you stick with the process of learning, submitting to wisdom and counsel from other people, continuing to learn and develop, you will produce beautiful fruit that other people will line up to buy. Okay, they can't get enough of it. Okay, And that is something that all of us have access to. So you might say, Doc, well, how do I know what I should plant? What are you good at? What do people come to you for? Do people come to you because you make the best chicken in the whole block? Do people come to you because you can cut hair better than anyone can cut hair? Are you skilled with driving and people always want to ride with you and they can trust you behind the wheel? Okay? For me, y'all, I'm 42. Like I said, I've been practicing psychiatry now for 12 years. I started medical school 20 years ago. Can y'all believe that? 2004 is when I first stepped foot into medical school. And so I've been thinking about the process of the mind and human emotions and behaviors for many, many years now. And I can look back on my life when I was younger. So as a little boy growing up, I had a pretty significant stutter. And so I was really scared about talking and sharing. This process that I'm doing now, speaking to a camera, speaking to an audience, this would have terrified me years ago, right? As a kid, I can remember being in a classroom and this is July, so we're about to enter return to school time for all the parents out there. So I remember being in elementary school, middle school, first day of school, first week of school, teacher saying, okay, everyone, we're gonna go around in a circle, everyone introduce yourselves and say your name. Y'all, she might as well say, y'all gonna just take your kidney out, right? Like I was terrified. I knew I was gonna fumble over my words, over my name. There were some times where I would walk out and fake like I had to use the bathroom just because I didn't want to face the humiliation or the embarrassment of stuttering. However, what I didn't realize is that because I was afraid of speaking, that gave me a superpower of listening. So y'all, I could listen and observe. You could put me in a room and I could feel the energy in the room. Without saying it, I could sense how people felt just by watching them and observing, and I could get a sense of the tension if there was tension, or the joy if there was people that seemed happy. I could feel it. And so over time, I was able to kind of harness that. I remember in elementary school, I won the Good Citizenship Award because I was kind to people and I like to serve and I like to be helpful. And in high school and college, I remember sophomore year of college, I was a biology tutor. I loved teaching. I'm kind of a nerd, right? I'm a natural learner, but I love to teach and to see the aha moments that happen when someone gets a concept and is able to apply it and use it. And I hope the same is happening for you guys now, that you're watching this video and you feel the wheels turning and you feel like you can do something with this information. So I say all this to say, all of us have something. What you thought was a weakness or a limitation in one season may actually be your gift or your leverage in another season. Here I am, the boy who used to stutter, now standing up, sharing some information with you confidently, speaking, okay? And all of you are capable of this in your own right. So, hope this was helpful. This concludes part 1 of our series From One to Many, how to massively improve your chances of success in every season. Please tune in to the next video where I'm going to break down this concept a little bit more, go through some examples, and hopefully help you guys in whatever you're pursuing. Thanks again.